Welcome to your guided notes for denotation and connotation. Somewhere in front of you, you should have a worksheet of the guided notes for connotation and denotation, guided notes with this PowerPoint and video. If you don't have it, go and get it from the folder that you need to at the very front of the room. Big gray bulletin board, you can't miss it. So, denotation and connotation. We talked very briefly about what it was and what it means when we went over the quarter one vocabulary, but go ahead and on your note sheet there are 4 words and we're going to write kind of the definition. If you think that they all mean the same thing, you would just write that they mean all the same thing. But the words that we want to talk about today are home, house, residence, and dwelling. Hit pause. And this is your own brainstorming ideas. Like, what does it mean? Welcome back from writing your notes. Hopefully, all of those things that you kind of thought of in your head, what does it mean? The words home, house, residence, and dwelling all have the very same basic definition. But the meaning and the feeling of those words is where it gets different, right? So, the definition of a home and a house and a residence and a dwelling, basic meaning is exactly where a person lives at any given point in time, right? So it could be that you live in a home or you live in a residence, like a residence hall. It could be, dwelling. So those are all places that people live. That's a very basic definition of the meaning, right? Of all those meanings. However, trying to keep moving myself. Even though they all have the same denotation, so the dictionary definition, all of the connotations, all of those feelings that are associated with those words, that's where it gets different. And that's why authors use those words to bring out specific feelings and memories, and it's a way to explain characters better. So at this point in time, let's write down the connotations of these words, right? So home, it's very cozy, it's loving, it's comfortable. I consider living in a home beautiful. Like, that's where I want to live. I want to live in a home. A house is the building, like the physical address, like that is where I am. Okay. Now, if I talk about the residence, that's going to be very cold. It's not going to have a lot of feeling to it. When I see the word residence, a lot of time I think of like college, and you live in a residence hall, it's a residence. There's cinder block walls, and you kind of have to make it your home. And then the last one is dwelling, and a dwelling is very primitive. It's basic, I think of it as like a cave, right? So those connotations are the feelings that those same exact words invoke. So make sure that you push pause and you write these 4 connotative meanings. All right, now we have to actually give our physical definitions. This is quarter 1 vocabulary, so these are words that you should have been kind of practicing and So denotation is the dictionary definition. It's the very strict, literal meaning of a word, okay? And I always try to remember it as like the dictionary, which starts with a D, right? So D for dictionary. Denotation, dictionary. That's pretty easy, right? So if you don't have this written down on the denotation part of your notes page, push pause, make sure you write this down. The next part that we're going to talk about is the connotation. Again, quarter 1 vocabulary, right? And it's the emotional, and it's very cultural, it's imaginative, it's like the feelings that surround the word. And then those feelings can either be positive or negative, right? So it's kind of if you're a sports fan, like I think of like the color commentary. So there's somebody that kind of gives just play by play, and then the other person talks about how, like all of the extra stuff that the player is doing outside of there, or they kind of jazz it up with fun words, or they try to make it worse. So it's all about your creativeness in your mind, what you're thinking, right? So C, colorful, it's the connection. Connotation is a connection that we have with those words. So if you don't have this written down on for your slides 7 and 8, please push pause and write that down. All right, so this next part, we're not going to have to really write a whole lot, but you do have to just listen and try to obtain some new knowledge. When we talk about the words cheap and inexpensive, essentially the denotation of the word is the same thing, right? They mean the same thing. It means that I didn't pay a lot for it. But there's a connotation where one feels like you're kind of insulting somebody, and the other one feels like you're saying, hey, did you get that on sale? Right? Or something like that. So you can tell somebody that, like, oh, your shoes look cheap. That kind of feels insulting, right? But if you say like, oh, I got this and it was so inexpensive, it feels a little bit nicer, right? So inexpensive has more of a positive feel to it, and cheap has kind of a negative feel to it. So let's look at the next example. We can say that we are investing or we are gambling. No matter what, if you're playing on the stock market or out and playing the slot machines, like either way, you're kind of taking a chance, right? But one sounds a little bit nicer than the other. Essentially, remember that denotation is that we're gambling. Like we're just kind of putting something into something else, right? But one, investing, man, I'm pushing towards the future. I'm looking that way. But gambling is like, yeah, I'm taking a chance. So there's that positive feeling and then there's that negative feeling. So let's try another one. Sometimes we talk about things that have never been around before. Denotation of the word. The dictionary definition of new and unproven are essentially the same thing. It just is, we've never seen it, right? Now, the denotation is the same, but the connotation, the way we feel something, that is changed. So one has a positive connotation and one has a negative. So I can either have new whitening toothpaste, or it could be unproven whitening toothpaste. One of them sounds like it's going to work, and the other one does not. And I think the last example is the difference between stingy and thrifty. So if somebody is very careful with their money, both of those denotatively mean the exact same thing. They both mean, hey, I'm being careful. However, if I'm thrifty, it means that I am being aware of my money and I feel a little bit better about it. But if I'm being stingy with my money, then probably that has a negative connotation, and it's not a nice way to say something to somebody, okay? This next part is a practice part, and you're just going to match up the word to the positive connotation to the negative connotation. So remember, the dictionary definition will essentially mean the same thing, but we're going to match the positive and negatives together. You should, on your piece of paper, have something that looks very similar to this. So we have proper is across from weird, brave is outrageous, or it's not outrageous, don't connect those. Fascinating, smirk, hilarious, full-heartedly, smile, and snobby. Let me move myself out of the way so you guys can see it. At this point in time, push pause on the video and connect. Like if you think proper is outrageous, like you would connect one to the letter B. So push pause and connect all of the dots. On this next part, I'm going to use a trick that you guys might appreciate, because maybe not everybody knows what these words mean. If you do, awesome. If you don't, not the end of the world. So all of the words with the numbers, those are all positive connotative words. They have a nice feeling to them. But all of the ones with the letters on the right-hand side of your screen, those are all negative connotative words, right? So maybe I don't know exactly what proper means, right? So I might skip that. Brave, I know what brave means, right? But maybe I can't find anything that's on the letter side. So I'm going to try to find something that I know for a fact is actually a match. So I know that smile is essentially the same thing as a smirk. So smile is the positive side and smirk is the negative side. I would much rather have somebody smile at me than smirk at me, right? If something is hilarious, it could either be considered weird or outrageous, but probably if I'm laughing at it, it's something that has been a little bit outside of the box. So I'm going to match that up with outrageous. Now, I'm kind of looking at it and I have number 3 says fascinating. Sometimes what some people call fascinating, other people consider to be weird. So 3 goes to A. Brave, I have foolhardily and snobby. And I'm like, I don't really know which one might be it. But I know that snobby is just a rude word for saying that somebody might be a little bit more proper than others, which leaves me with brave and foolhardy. Okay, so to be foolhardy, it just means that you're reckless or bold or rash. Like some people see it as brave, other people see it as not so much. Make sure that your notes page matches up with what I have. So it should go 1 to E, 2 is D, 3 is B, 4 is, 3 is A, 4 is B, and 5 is C. Shikes. Alrighty. I'm having issues. All right. So why do we even need to learn about connotation? Like, what's the point of it, right? Well, this is where it becomes you as a learner for your future success in life. So let's talk about this number 1, and it should be slide 16 on your notes page. So which headline would you likely to find in the Cubs' hometown paper? Well, here's what I know. The Chicago Cubs is a baseball team. And when they play the Cardinals, that's like their rival, right? So if the Cubs win, how would Chicago Cubs, how would their newspaper want you to see it? Well, they would want to see it as the Cubs destroy the Cards 5-3. Now, in baseball, that's a pretty decent little situation, right? But if you are in the Cardinals territory, so if you're in St. Louis, the Cardinals paper is not going to want to spin that because, they don't like losing, right? So this would be in Chicago. That did not work. Okay, that's not working. And this would be in St. Louis. That's supposed to say Chicago. I don't know what happened. But you know what? I'm not going to re-record it. So we got that going for us. So that is why we need to learn about connotation and denotation. All right. So why did you choose your answer? Well, if it's going to be in Chicago's hometown paper, then they're going to want to show how good they are being and how talented their team is, right? So the next 2 So, oh, that did not fit. Why is going on? So which paper does not favor the development of a project? Right there on slide 17. Is it mall is going to destroy 300 homes, or would mall bring 3,000 jobs? So if you're not in favor of something and you are writing an article about it, what would you title it? I would say it's going to destroy homes. I wouldn't say that it's going to bring jobs, because I want other people to feel the exact same way that I do, right? So this is why connotation is important. There, I don't know why that went. All right, and then where I'm going to give you 4 different books titles. All of them have the word chicken in it. So there's Chicken Soup for the Teen Soul, Real Life Stories by Real Teens. These are actually really good books if you're ever looking for something quick and easy. Then there's Are You a Chicken? A Coward's Guide to Roller Coasters. And then we have something that came up underneath of my video, so let me move that real quick for you. And then we have Story's Guide to Raising Chickens. And lastly, let's talk about the Best Chicken Cookbook. So all 4 of those titles mean 4 totally different things. So why would they use that same word, chicken, like we're all talking about chicken, but why would we need that? And that is your answer to slide 18. And at this point in time, you need to make sure that you go back into your progress tracker and mark this lesson as ready to be seen. And you also need to move your visual tracker that's over on the collaboration station and move that as well. So all of your notes should be filled out at this point in time. These notes go into your gray folder. I do not need these notes. These are for you. These are your study guides. And make sure you move your progress trackers.